If you grew up with an emotionally immature parent or parents, you probably didn't realize it at the time. Because when you're a kid, what's normal is just how you learned to function. But now, you second guess your feelings. You overfunction in relationships. You struggle to set boundaries. You carry this quiet fear of disappointing people, and you wonder, why does this all feel so hard for me? So today, we're going to unpack all of that, and we're going to look at 6 ways that emotionally immature parenting leaves an imprint and how these show up in your adult life now. Because when you start to see them clearly, that's when you can start to shift them. But first, if you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. My name is Julia Christina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, a speaker, and the author of my book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus. And around here, we talk about real tools for emotional strength, healthy boundaries, and grounded confidence, especially for those of us who didn't grow up learning that. But before we get into this, let's start by going over what I mean by emotionally immature parents. Know that this isn't about labeling your parents as bad people. It's about understanding emotional development, or the lack of it, and how it impacts other people. An emotionally immature parent is someone who, for a variety of reasons, like their own trauma, how they were parented, a lack of their own emotional regulation skills, never developed the ability to show up as a steady, emotionally safe adult. And here are some signs that you experienced that while growing up. First one, your parent couldn't handle big, uncomfortable feelings, theirs or yours. They were reactive, unpredictable, highly sensitive to criticism, and also likely they were highly critical. They made things about themselves, even when you were the one who was hurting. You often felt like you had to walk on eggshells when you were around them, and they were loving sometimes, but inconsistent with that, and often defensive or emotionally unavailable most of the time. When you were growing up, it probably felt a lot of the time like you were trying to build a foundation on shifting sand. 1 minute, things felt stable, like you were getting somewhere, and the next minute, you felt like you were bracing yourself for the next tidal wave. And if you grew up in that environment, it couldn't help but leave an imprint. And that imprint will follow you into adulthood in ways that connect back to those experiences in childhood. So let's walk through these 6 signs, and I will give you real-life examples of how each one plays out now in your adult life. The first sign, you were raised by an emotionally immature parent. You feel guilty for saying no. Not just a little bit guilty, but often a lot guilty, even for a small no. And this is because as a kid, you probably learned at an early age that your wants, your needs, or your boundaries made people upset, or that it was just your job to keep the peace. Maybe every time you spoke up, you expressed a need, you came forward with your own idea or preference, it was met with anger, blame, guilt, or full emotional withdrawal. So over time, your brain, your nervous system wired itself to believe that it's safer to say yes or even say nothing at all, even if it costs me. And now, saying no doesn't just feel a little uncomfortable, it feels wrong, even when you know it's the healthy choice. So for example, let's say that you're exhausted, totally spread thin, at your limit, and you know that you need rest. You know that you need a break. You know that you need some time to recharge. But you still say yes to the invite, the favor, the extra project. And afterwards, you're resentful, you're drained, or maybe even flirting with burnout or a total meltdown. All because saying no still feels way too risky. The second sign you were raised by an emotionally immature parent is that you overfunction in relationships. And overfunctioning means that you are carrying much more than your share of the responsibility in the relationship. For emotions, for logistics, for the mental load, for other people's well-being, for other people's choices, for other people's lives. Because growing up, depending on others didn't feel safe or it just wasn't available. And that's because depending on others while growing up didn't feel safe, or because there was no one actually there to consistently rely on. And now you're the one always checking in, the one remembering everything, the one always giving in, the one always taking care of it all, taking care of everyone. And meanwhile, your own wants, your own needs quietly get sidelined. Sign number 3, that you grew up with an emotionally immature parent. You struggle to trust your own emotions. If your feelings were consistently minimized, downplayed, ignored, criticized, or dismissed altogether, you learned not to trust them. You learned that your emotions weren't reliable, or at worst, that they were actually a problem. So now you second guess your own inner experience. You second guess your own feelings, even when something clearly doesn't sit right. And this can show up when having a feeling like you know that something's off, but instead of trusting it, your mind jumps in with things like, oh, you're just overreacting. You're probably just being too sensitive. It's probably nothing. And just like that, you abandon your own inner knowing. Sign number 4, that you grew up with an emotionally immature parent. You fear disappointing people. Not a little bit, but a lot. Because your worth got tied in with making that parent happy, or at least keeping them stable and preventing them from ever getting upset. Maybe it was your job to manage their moods, to avoid upsetting them, to be the easy one, the responsible one, the one that didn't cause problems. And when your sense of worth got continuously tied in to making other people happy, disappointment starts to feel dangerous. So now, even when you get the sense that someone is even mildly disappointed with you, it brings up intense feelings of rejection. It feels like you failed, even though there is that part of your brain that knows you didn't. It feels like you did. It's like you're walking through life, holding this fragile glass vase labeled approval, constantly worried that with one wrong move, you're going to drop it and shatter it completely. And if this feels familiar, one of the most powerful ways to start untangling that feeling is learning how to stand in your truth with a calm, clear sense of who you are, even when it feels uncomfortable. So for this, I have a free guide for you. It's called The 6 Simple Ways to Be Yourself Without Apology. And you can grab it for free with the link in the description right after this talk, so you can start learning how to be your full self without apology. And now the 5th sign, that you grew up with emotionally immature parents. You have a hard time expressing your needs or even just asking for help. When you grew up with those unpredictable emotional responses, asking for what you need felt risky. So now you power through. You say you're fine. You act like everything is okay and you've got it all under control, even though on the inside, you're running on empty and barely functioning on fumes. Of course, you'll go and you'll help anyone else at the drop of a pin. But when you're overwhelmed or even really struggling, asking for help, it feels impossible. Sign number 6, that you grew up with an emotionally immature parent, is that you still crave the emotional repair that has never come. When you grew up with emotionally immature parents, there's this lingering ache for a repair that they were never able to give, that they never did give. You crave the apology that never came, the accountability or the responsibility that was dodged or avoided altogether. you've been craving for as long as you can remember, that moment when they look you in the eyes and say, "I see how I hurt you, and it wasn't your fault. It wasn't even about you, and I'm sorry." And because that has never happened, part of you is still reaching for it, even without realizing it. It shows up now in your adult relationships when you feel like you're desperately trying to just get someone to hear you, to understand you, or when you're just drawn to people who are generally emotionally unavailable because it feels so familiar. And you're not wrong for wanting that repair, for wanting that acknowledgement, for wanting that accountability or that responsibility. But the truth is, when we never got it while we were growing up, we now, on an unconscious level, seek it in the wrong places and with the people who simply don't have the awareness to give it. If you're hearing these signs and you're thinking, this explains so much, know that you're not alone. You're not weak, you're not broken, and there's definitely not something wrong with you. It just means you're carrying an imprint, one that makes sense given how you grew up. But that imprint, it doesn't have to keep defining you. So, how do you start to shift this? That first step is awareness. And that's exactly what you're getting now after listening to all of this and learning all of this here today. And if you want to go back and listen to this again, then that will heighten that awareness even more. Because when you can start to name what's happening without shame, you can start to respond differently. It means noticing these patterns, the overfunctioning, the people-pleasing, the guilt around boundaries, the self-doubt, the fear of disappointing people, and then gently reminding yourself, those patterns are not who I am. They are what I learned, which means they can be unlearned. Unlearned through practicing how you want to be thinking, what you want to be thinking, how you want to be showing up, where you want to be showing up, how you are going to define and understand yourself clearly, confidently, and unapologetically, even when it feels uncomfortable at first, which it will. And know that uncomfortable doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're doing something different and your brain needs a chance to catch up with that. And to help you start untangling from some of those old patterns is that free guide of mine, 6 Simple Ways to Be Yourself Without Apology. You can grab that. The link is in the description below, and it is for you completely free. If you've ever struggled to express your needs, stand in your truth, or live fully as who you truly are, this one's for you. Growing up with an emotionally immature parent, yes, it has shaped how you see yourself now. It has shaped how you show up now, how you relate to yourself and relate to others now. But it doesn't have to keep doing that. It doesn't have to keep defining you. And the more you can see, understand, and name this imprint, the more you can choose to instead stand in your truth. And the more you do that, the more you rewrite the pattern. If this connected with you, I have another video, 7 behaviors of emotionally immature parents, that I will link here. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Take good care of those around you. Bye for now.